Ayo, back at it again with another video. Thank you all for watching. I greatly appreciate it. So, as I said in my last video, I took some time off from making videos. A lot's happened in my personal life. Been moving around a lot lately, so I haven't had time to make any videos. It's been about a month and a half since I've made a video. So I'm back, and the war in Ukraine is still going on. Gonna give an update video on that. So we are currently day 601. So we passed the 600-day mark here in the war in Ukraine. So as we know, back in 2014, the Russian annexation of Crimea, war in the Donbass. So these regions right over here, Donetsk, Luhansk, Crimea, was 2014. Invasion in 2022. Here, got the land bridge to Crimea, and this was the initial thrust this way and south from Belarus towards Kiev. Ultimately failed. We had that long convoy at the beginning of the war that ultimately ran out of fuel, which was kind of an embarrassing moment for the Russians. And they decided, we're not going to do that. We're going to pull back. And this was the Kherson and this was the Kharkiv offensives in fall about a year ago. And ever since that point, there's been the line of contact has relatively remained stable. Ukrainians have gone in their counteroffensive. They've been pushing along the front all along from Vuhledar all the way towards the Dnieper River. They've had a lot of success in pushing back forces here along the front line here, have really kind of put a bulge in the line here. The Orkiv axis here in Robatny and Novoprokopivka. So basically what the Ukrainians are trying to do here is trying to push towards Tokmak here. So Tokmak is there. That is a critical rail and road junction. So ultimately, Ukrainians are trying to do is push towards Tokmak, and then it looks like they're trying to push towards Melitopol. You would sever that land bridge because for the Russians to get supplies to the front line here and front line over here in the Kherson area, you have two options. You either go through the land bridge or you go through the Kerch Strait Bridge, through Crimea, up that way. So basically what the Ukrainians are trying to do, in my view, in my personal opinion, is to sort of repeat this, Kherson and Kharkiv Oblast, where they really struck at the different supply chain and logistics. Because the Ukrainians were, targeting, crossing points on the Dnieper. The Russian logistics just couldn't, handle it, and they were forced to retreat from Mykolaiv and Kherson across the river because logistics just couldn't handle it. I think that's kind of what the Ukrainians are trying to do at this point. They're trying to get logistics, fire control, especially those long-range Himars systems, trying to control Tokmak, because that's the logistics point. Melitopol, that's the logistics point. Berdyansk is a little far, so we're going to, Robotne and Novoprokopivka is up here, so we're going to zoom in on Google. So, yeah, so Robatny right here. Measure distance. And remember, the Himars range is about 50 miles. So from the Robotne to Tokmak is 14 miles. And then Melitopol is about 46 miles. So basically, from Robotne up here in the Orakiv axis towards Melitopol is basically under fire control for the Himars launcher. Robotne up here, Robotny, I don't exactly know how to pronounce it. But if you want, you can, and even Verbove is another point that they can. But Novoprokopivka is at the very front of the line. So you wouldn't put Himars launchers that close to the line, but you could. And then you can potentially get, fire control over Tokmak and that logistics point. And then over Melitopol. So I think, again, this is just my opinion, that the Ukrainians are trying to repeat kind of what they did in Kherson, where they really trying to get rid of the supply issues, that the Russians are trying to get their supplies over the river to their troops. And once the Ukrainians severed those, they had to retreat. I think that's part of the reason what they're doing here. So they've advanced far enough where they can get, Himars launchers, 1 or 2 launchers in there, and then that could potentially, take out logistics depots in Tokmak and Melitopol. Again, that's just my opinion. I don't know what the Ukrainian, general staff is planning on doing, but that's from the look of it, that's kind of what is going on. So there is other fighting in Volodar that has mostly remained, pretty stagnant. There hasn't been a whole lot of movement, maybe a little bit. There's been a lot of fighting in Avdiivka. Russian assault on Avdiivka. This is from The Guardian. This is from 50 minutes ago, so we'll head into that. Russian assault on Avdiivka reported to be weakening Putin and rise in Beijing. So Putin is assaulting Avdiivka, is not working. A days-long attempt by the Russian forces to storm this important city in eastern Ukraine appears to be running out of steam. Ukrainian forces repelled 15 Russian attacks from 4 different directions, which honestly checks out because Avdiivka is pretty much surrounded on, most of the side. You got 3 sides. You can attack it from multiple different directions. I think the Ukrainians are trying to hold out here for as long as possible to tie down some Russian forces so that they can kind of keep moving over here and they're, offensive in that direction. There's also been a lot of movement in Bakhmut, especially since the beginning of this counteroffensive. So as we know, Bakhmut is this really important city that was the cause of the fighting over the course of most of the winter last year. And then the Russians they were trying to encircle it. The Ukrainians pushed back on Klishchivka, so Klishchivka and Andriivka are the heights. It looks like they're on higher ground, overlooking the city of Bakhmut. So the Ukrainians have taken that, and they're trying to get the forces in Bakhmut under control. There was a report that there was a Russian trying to, in Svatove, in the Kupiansk region, they were trying to gather forces for an offensive. It didn't work out. So, yes, the advance in this region is slow, but the reason why they're really focusing on here is I really believe they're trying to get this Tokmak, Melitopol under, Himars range, and then they can really target logistics, kind of how they targeted the logistics for Kherson and Kharkiv. So there's also been an attack on the Black Sea headquarters in Sevastopol. They attacked a Russian submarine in dry dock, destroyed that. There's been a handful of shaping operations in Crimea. So, yes, it is going slowly, but it is, it's taking a little bit of time. But I still believe that they're trying to get this, from Orikhiv, Poloy, and Verbove is kind of the settlement that they've. Robotny, Novoprokopivka right here, Verbove right here, trying to get this Tokmak and Melitopol within the range of Himars launchers. And Himars launchers is about 50 miles. So you get Tokmak under fire control, you get Melitopol, you get these highways, these M14 under fire control, then you can really hamper Russian logistics. So that is the update. Day 601. We've passed the 600-day mark. I believe that the Ukrainian counteroffensive is not, there's a lot of people that are saying that, always going too slow. Yeah, it's slow progress, but Ukrainians are making progress. Slow progress is better than no progress. And I think that they're trying to really get shaping operations in place for, a potential break in Russian logistics that could potentially play out in Ukraine's favor. So, yes, it's slow, but still remaining, I still believe in the capabilities of the Ukrainian armed forces, faith in the general staff, faith in President Zelensky and all those making plans in Kiev. So that is an update on Ukraine. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Deuces.